Hello, dear digital ship friends. Welcome to our Vessel Performance Info webinar on monitoring performance by Voyage from our sponsors Navtor. We are connected to our guest speaker, Arild, who is the Chief Business Development Officer for NavFleet at Navtor. I encourage you to use your opportunity to ask Arild questions, simply typing them to the Q&A box that you see on your screen. And now I think we are ready to dive into today's topic with Carl Jeffrey, founding editor of Digital Ship. Carl, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we're going to look today at vessel performance on a voyage by voyage basis. So why are we doing that? It could be because your vessel is on a spot charter where there's an agreement with the charterer about the emissions you're going to make on the voyage. And the charterer wants to do that because they've made their own commitments to decarbonize, such as under the sea cargo charter. So when you're negotiating with the charterer, they're going to ask you how much emissions you think you're going to make on a certain voyage, and they're going to ask you to report the actual emissions afterwards. And we're even hearing about penalties being written into the charter party, which you have to pay if the targets get missed. So what's the best way to handle this as a ship operator? Well, probably you're going to want to monitor the performance day by day during the voyage, and you can see if you're on target to meet your commitments. And perhaps there's some adjustments you can make if you aren't, such as adjusting the speed of the vessel. And this monitoring is also going to help you with a long-term picture, so you can make a better sort of bids to charterers for future voyages. You can check you're on track for your target for your CII submission for the end of the year, or see if you want to do more longer-term things such as propeller and hull efficiency cleaning. Propeller and hull cleaning to improve the efficiency. And our speaker today is Arild Saether, who's the Chief Business Development Officer with Navtor's NavFleet fleet monitoring software. He's based in Haugesund near Stavanger, and I can see on his LinkedIn page that he's also a former lieutenant commander in the Royal Norwegian Navy in the Special Warfare Training Center. And he's going to present some tools and methods which can help you manage performance by voyage, including before the voyage, monitoring during the voyage, and the analysis afterwards. So I'd like to invite Arild to start his talk. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Carl, for this good and deep introduction to what we're going to talk about today. Just hold on, I will share my screen here. There you are. Yeah. Yes, you mentioned a lot of the good stuff, Carl, and what we're going to talk about. And what we see, some of the, let's say, everyday challenges today is actually to face the increasing operational complexity in this market. We see greater regulatory demands and also increase in the competitive commercial landscape, which makes everything more difficult for us as manufacturers, but also for our users of our services. That could be technical, it could be operational, it could be commercial teams and others. So in our company, in Navtor, we see an increasing demand for tools to monitor navigational safety, to monitor operational efficiency, environmental efficiency, how to prove performance, improve business performance, how to actually secure good and better data quality, how you can improve reporting to regulators, and how to simplify the different daily workflows you have. So we're talking about integration, automation, and again, touching on to navigational safety, how you actively can monitor different voyages, how you can receive notifications for deviations, let's say both navigational-wise and performance-wise, about vessel performance, notifications for charter party compliance. If your vessels are outside good weather, for instance, that is something we see an increasing demand for. So in general, what we see is that monitoring in here is the key to improve. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the trends that impact the different shipping companies today, and how we at Navtor actually address these trends. Finally, by the end, I'm going to go through some of the features in our solutions that actually underpins how we address these challenges. So first, I'm going to say something about the trends we see have the impact on shipping companies today. So what we see is that there are a good number of different trends, many more than what you see here. And all of these trends in the market today will, of course, direct our development. They will give us the focus areas for how we develop our products. In Navtor, our mission has always been to help to simplify the operational tasks. So when we develop our solutions, we do that in very close contact with our customers. So we need to understand their pain points, we need to understand their requirements and their demands. So they help us to develop our solutions as well. So we are sure that we actually hit the target. In order to understand their demands, we need to understand the market. We need to understand the trends that impact these companies. We need to understand their pain points. What is it? Is it about emission, regulatory compliance? Is it about integration and automation? Could it be about data quality? Could it be about say, predicting hull cleanings or propeller polish or something else? So looking at the trends we have, what we feel is the most important things for our development of products is, of course, within the decarbonization and regulations. This is where the regulators, shareholders, and other stakeholders are pushing the different companies to reduce the impact of shipping on the environment. Then we're talking about the MRV, DCS, CII, EEXI, and also others. On technology, we see that especially COVID has pushed for greater demand for digitization and automation. We see a huge interest in new technology, that companies want to use the technology at a higher scale to improve different types of insights and also to improve the decision making. Again, they want to simplify workflows, both on board the vessel, but also on the shore side. What we also see is when it comes to COVID, that has had a huge impact on the different economies out there. We see an impact on supply chains, we see impact on different business health, and we also see an increase in higher focus on crew welfare. That is about, let's say, it could be about entertainment system, it could be about reducing workflows on board again. We also have what we see within the geopolitics. We have different sanctions. We currently have an ongoing war and other events that had led to higher energy prices and also volatile charter rates for the last years. And of course, high fuel prices, they also demand more efficient vessel operations and better performance again. So if we focus on one of these things, if we look at the changing regulatory landscape, and maybe more importantly, as our responsibility to reduce the global carbon footprint, we have many different frameworks and many different stakeholders we need to relate to. So especially the shareholders, they're putting a greater emphasis on the environmental efficiency, of course. Companies are forced to find different ways in how to be more energy efficient, how to comply with both financial but also different performance requirements. Going into the systems, we have IMO, of course, and we have EU, which is basically the core of everything. They set the minimum requirements, they set the minimum standards, and also give directions. It could be about equipment, but it could also be about greenhouse gas strategies, for instance, which we see that CII is a part of. So CII is a part of the IMO's strategy to reduce the carbon intensity in international shipping. Within the EU, we have for instance, the EU ETS, the emission trading systems, where we know that we are getting closer and closer to include shipping into the EU's carbon market. We know that ships that traveling within EU, they will have to pay for 100% of their CO2 emissions, and also 50% of the voyages outside of EU until 2027. We also know that this will increase over time. We also know that the same vessels from 2026 also have to pay for non-CO2 emissions, such as methane or soot or nitrous oxide. That will also come. Other, let's say, trends, other frameworks that have a huge impact in in operations and also within product development is, of course, the different frameworks we have. That could be Poseidon principles, which is the frameworks for finance and marine insurance, global frameworks for assessing and disclosing different climate alignments. Both of them with different types of incentives, which could lead to green finance, sustainability-linked finance for debt refinancing initiatives. It could also lead to, let's say, better ship insurance conditions, with their set of requirements for emission and compliance to these. For sea cargo charter, which is also a global framework, that is about aligning, let's say, chartering activities and set different types of benchmarks for what it means to be a responsible charterer. Looking at these, let's say, two different frameworks, which actually has a huge impact in the shipping industry, we see that a lot of the core principles are the same, but the frameworks, they rely on different types of metrics, where one of them is focusing on the AER and can use IMO DCS for data collections, whilst the others, sea cargo charter, they use EEOI, for instance, and have a little different approach for the source of data. So both of them, they focus on assessment of climate alignment, the accountability, enforcement, and transparency. If you look at the costs involved in the shipping, today the fuel costs alone probably represents as much as 50 to 60% of the total ship operating costs, depending on the type of ship and service. And the majority of these costs are usually forwarded to the cargo owner, the charterer, or the owner of the vessels. With the new regulations from EU, where the shipping also need to pay for all the CO2 emissions and later also non-CO2 emissions, these costs will most likely be forwarded to the same recipient as for the fuel costs. So we believe that this will push for more energy efficient operations, but it will also push for more voyage-based monitoring. We also know that some of the regulators are also pushing for voyage-based reporting when it comes to MRV and DCS as well. So this will come, voyage-based monitoring and reporting. So to address these things, we need better planning tools, we need better analytics tools, and we need more transparency in general. So what do Navtor do to address these trends? So our main office is in Egersund, south of Stavanger, not Haugesund, as Carl mentioned. It's very confusing because they sound similar. So this is Egersund, and this is where our main office is. So our company was founded in 2011 with the main focus on e-navigation and again, simplify the operational tasks for the users on board the vessels and also on the shore side. So we have currently approximately 160 employees. We have 8,500 vessels under service using our products on a day-to-day basis. And we have 10 fully owned Navtor offices worldwide to help us do this service. And also a lot of distributors, over 20 distributors of our services worldwide to help us to address the market. And also how we address these trends is that we have 4 different business areas in our company. This makes us very close to a one-stop shop for both e-navigation services and also the vessel performance services. So looking into the 4 different business areas where everything started, that was within the e-navigation. Okay, we make good planning tools, how to make a good voyage. We have auto-routing functionalities. We have weather services. We have publications. We have ENCs. When it comes to the OEM and SDK business areas, we are one of the very, very few companies, let's say, making the core software for the active manufacturers. So we have the technology in-house that will also help us in the other services we have. When it comes to shipping analytics, we have a lot of data in-house as well, which we again use to improve our services within the e-navigation, within the performance, and within the OEM business as well. And the last is the performance. Performance is a huge part of our business as well, because we need to look at this in a holistic perspective. You need solutions within the performance and also within the e-navigation to be able to supply a complete solution to the users and the customers. Because in order to optimize a vessel, you need to also have good routing services and also good workflow solutions as well. And that is one of the things we have in our company. So to help us do this, we have a suite of products. We have an integrated solution for sustainable shipping, where we have our planning tools on board the vessels within the nav station that helps and simplify and reduce workload for the crew on board. We have our reporting solutions that could be digital logbooks. It could be our reporting for performance services. And we also have the nav box on board the vessel. The nav box, that is, let's say, the hub of everything. So you can have a connection to flow meters, shaft power meters, and you can feed that information into the nav box, and you can auto-populate into reporting solutions, and you can also have you can also send the data to the shoreside for analytics, for instance. So everything is flowing seamlessly between the shore and the vessel when it comes to our e-navigation services, about weather, about E&C and publications, and also about performance services when it comes to how you can optimize your vessels, trim optimization, and other initiatives you can do to reduce emission and fuel costs. On the shore side, we have NavFleet. We also have NavTrack and NavTV, but I will focus on the NavFleet, which is our monitoring product. That is the monitoring tool we have to utilize information from the vessel. So you can have better insights and also take better decisions based on information flow we have. So again, when we developed NavFleet, we did it together with our customers and asked them, what do you actually need from a monitoring tool? Not a tracking tool, but a monitoring tool. A monitoring tool that will give you notifications, it will give you insight and information instantly, more or less. So we have different, let's say, modules. It's not a one-size-fits-all, because we know there are a lot of different stakeholders. So we need to have a solution that can cater to all these different stakeholders with different type of usage. So in our NavFleet solution, we have modules that fit the commercial teams, the operational teams, the technical teams, and also others like the C-suite, many of different users as well. And you can set up the product so it fits your requirements and needs. So it's about voyage planning, it's about emission and compliance reporting. It could be about hull performance monitoring or main engine performance monitoring. We are also one of the few looking at the total propulsion efficiency, which also includes, let's say, propeller performance, hull performance, main engine, auxiliary engine performance as well. So in our NavFleet solution, we have tools so you can monitor on charterparty. You have integration solutions. We can integrate to VessLink and also others, again, to simplify operations. And also enhanced voyage monitoring solutions as well, both within the navigational safety aspect, but also within the vessel performance aspect. So diving into some of the features we have, because we have a lot of different analytics we can find in our NavFleet solutions. So I will try to give you some information about the features that we use on a day-to-day basis, but also on a voyage basis as well. So I'm not diving into the full analytics. I'm just giving you some insights in the planning tools we have and also the analytics tools we have on a voyage-based monitoring. Because it is going to be a huge part of the industry when it comes to voyage-based monitoring because of the regulations and the compliance to these. So in NavFleet, we have a fuel tables module. First of all, we make a digital twin, and this digital twin set the base layer. That is the base value for our vessel. And based on reporting, we always adjust the model so it has updated propulsion efficiency information in our solutions. So our fuel tables module, that will allow you to see the speed and consumption tables based on the current performance and propulsion efficiency right now. So in this solution, you can simulate consumption at different speeds and different drafts based on the current propulsion efficiency for each single vessel. You can also run scenario-based. You can also run scenarios based on simulated hull cleanings, different weather conditions, and different time periods. And you can also predict, let's say, 3 or 6 months ahead in time, based on the current trend of propulsion efficiency your vessel has. So again, this tool will help you to improve the commercial operations and also to understand the true performance of each single vessel. So using this tool, you can improve the fixtures by doing these different types of simulations. Also on the planning side, we have our voyage planning module. The voyage planning module that allows you to simulate different voyage itineraries. You can estimate consumptions, you can estimate voyage costs, emissions, and also, of course, CII, which is very important at the moment. We see the CII is the hot topic in all meetings we attend at the moment. Again, this is also scenario-based approach, so will also help you to improve the fixtures and also for strategic planning. So in this voyage planning module, we have different speed profiles. So let's say you have eco speed, you have full speed, slow steaming, but you can also enter manual speed in here as well. So you have a breakdown at different speed profiles. And again, we use the current propulsion efficiency to calculate the total cost, the total emissions, and the CII rating for this particular voyage. So in the voyage planning tool we have, you enter the departure port, you enter time and date of departure, you enter if the vessel is in ballast or in laden, and also arrival port. And we will have a routing suggestion, mainly just a distance, a total distance, where you also can block different areas such as the Suez, Panama, and also other areas. You can minimize time spent in different zones, like eco zones. And this output will give you a good comparison of the different costs, the different consumptions, and different CII. So again, you have more insights even in the planning phase for the different steps you take in here. Better insights on consumptions, both in the non-eco zone, in the eco zone, and also CII rating. Will this have a positive or negative effect, this particular voyage, on my CII rating for my vessel? Also, I mentioned in the beginning that monitoring is not only about environmental efficiency, but also about operational efficiency, navigational safety, and more. So to simplify the different workflows and to improve the operational efficiency, we have our Nav station. This is a software that can be installed on any PC on board the vessel. And here is also where you see the fully advantage of our holistic approach to monitoring. Again, we have the planning tools in NavFleet where you can simulate emission consumptions, but here you do the actual navigational planning that leads to a complete passage plans. So our nav station is based on different modules again, and everything is geo-referenced. So you just add new layers on top of the planning tools. So it's about route planning, it's about ENCs, e-publications, weather overlays, it's about nav area warnings, all different types of information in one single place, in one single solution. You have passage planning, you have maneuvering assistance, weather routing, user layers, AMVA reporting, and also port data information, data layers. So it's many different layers of information you can add on top. And all this leads into a complete and compliant passage plan, ready for inspection by port state authorities. And all this is about eliminating hours of administrative workloads again. So this is happening on board. This is what the crew does, and they save a lot of hours by using this service on the vessel side, taking into account the sailing orders from the office, for instance. Okay, after making the passage plans on board the vessel, they activate the passage plan on board. So now we pass to the shore side, into the NavFleet application, passing on to monitoring. We also have different dashboards to monitor, depending on your needs and requirements and what kind of service you would like to have from us. So in this dashboard, we focus on voyage monitoring and also on charterparty performance compliance. So you can see we have different donut charts to indicate if your vessels are deviating from routes or passage plans. You have a donut chart if your vessels are delayed or ahead of schedule, if your vessels are outside good weather conditions, or if they're not performing according to charterparty. So it gives you a very quick overview of the status of your fleet in this solution. So again, it's about monitoring. Monitoring is the key to improve business performance. In addition to this, we also have a huge range of different types of notifications you can sign up for. You can either have them in the application like it is here, or you can receive them on emails. So you can have voyage-related notifications. So let's say your vessel deviates from plans, are delayed, etc. But you can also have performance-related notifications. So let's say you want to receive a typical noon reports, sea report, port report, anchor maneuvering reports. You can have notifications for speed performance, deviations from propulsion efficiency, consumption deviations, charterparty speed shortfalls, SFOC deviations, and many, many more notifications you can sign up for and receive instantly if that is your preference. Again, also in monitoring is the key to see if you're actually are compliant or not. So in this dashboard, you can very easily see the weather forecast for this particular vessel along the rest of the route. So the blue line you see here, that is the passage plan. And you can also go back in history and see the weather along my track. And that is the analyzed weather from the weather provider. And that is the weather mainly used in charterparty. So it's easy to see if you're outside good weather conditions according to charterparty, because then it turns orange. Or if your vessels are actually sailing outside the operational limits, then it becomes red. So we have some tools to give you some indications about the status in the history right now and also in the future when it comes to compliance to different types of metrics. In here, we have more or less the same, but we have different types of information. This is more focused on charterparty related information, where you can see the different speed orders, the loading conditions, and the different speed requirements according to charterparty. That is also listed up here. And you have good indications if you're outside good weather or inside, presented in a neatly way. And again, it's monitoring. I've mentioned it before many times, but monitoring is key, both for navigational safety, but also to give you insights in how to improve efficiency, both environmental efficiency, but also operational efficiency. So for the operational team, we also offer more accurate monitoring features, because we know that when vessels are planning for a voyage, you make a passage plan. And in NavFleet and in the nav station, you activate this passage plan and it presents in NavFleet on the shore side automatically as a blue line, as you see here. So the blue line, that is the approved and activated passage plan, automatically activated from the vessel. But we also know that during a voyage, you will have deviations. That could be deviations for many different reasons. And we also know that the crew very often only update the information in the actives, which is the compliant product they need to use for route monitoring. So then you can risk to have a different route on the actives, which they use for navigation, compared to the approved passage plan. But by using our service with the navbox connected to the actives, we automatically receive the route from the actives when they activate it, which they are required to do by regulations for route monitoring. The exact route is then transferred and displayed in NavFleet as a red dotted line. So in here, you will see a deviation from the approved passage plan and what they actually use for navigation, which is displayed here as a red dotted line. And then you can take actions on this. Then touching into more, let's say, performance-related information, going into the voyage analysis. after the voyage, or during the voyage. Our voyage analysis tool gives you the possibility to dive into an ongoing voyage and see the different information when it comes to emissions, consumptions, and such. But you can also go into completed voyages. So it allows you to analyze speed management, charter party performance, and also other voyage execution details of these voyages. So you can easily see the CO2 emissions, CI ratings. You can monitor charter party compliance using GPS, AS, and also weather data, and set up automated, let's say, email alerts. So you can take proactive steps to avoid possible charter party claims. So this is giving you insight of one particular voyage, one particular vessel, or you can have your fleet listed in here as well. Diving into one specific voyage in using our solutions. So in our voyage analysis, which you can use for, again, both for ongoing and completed voyages, you can find the total numbers related to emissions, CO2, CII, etc. So in the voyage overview window, you have information about total fuel consumptions, total CO2, total main engine fuel consumptions, average speed, CI ratings for this particular voyage. So you can see and go back and analyze. Okay, was this good for my business or bad for my business? And you also have the attained CII for this voyage as well. So you can analyze towards, let's say, good weather definitions as defined per charter parties. And if you currently don't have a charter party, you can set your own weather conditions, before ranges, wave heights, etc., and analyze towards these. In the same analysis, we also have the voyage execution window. In this window, you find more detailed information about this particular voyage. So you can deep dive into the speed profile, where you easily can compare the reported speed from the vessel with the registered AS or GPS speed, which we monitor by using either external or internal services for this monitoring. In the total consumption, combining a main engine and auxiliary engine, you can also easily see where you had excess consumption against charter party consumption warranties, for instance. And you can also see where you're outside good weather conditions. And since we display information, let's say, side by side or over the other, it's very easy to get a clear understanding of why there was excess consumptions and where there was excess consumptions, because you can compare the different information windows you have. So in this window, you can see that on the 25th of January, we had actually 2 auxiliary engines running, leading into excess consumptions. And then you can use the other information windows to find some more, let's say, information to underpin this. You also see that we have boiler excess consumption on the 30th of January as well. Moving forward to fuel consumptions, of course, we give you insights in and also breakdown of the different fuel types with different consumers. So in this window, you can see how many percentage was by LS HFO and LS MGO, for instance, and how much was consumed by the main engine, auxiliary boiler, and also other consumers in this breakdown. When it comes to charter party and weather information and the analytics for these, again, when we place the information side by side, it's very easy to find a relationship between the data. So at the top, we find main engine consumptions. The blue bars you see here, they are showing the reported consumptions. The gray bars are showing the bad weather consumptions, and is not used for analytics. And the red bars are the excess consumptions. And everything is also presented with the green dotted line, which is the charter party requirements for when it comes to speed and also consumptions. So the same goes for the performance speed beneath here, where you can see very easily where you had speed shortfall or where you didn't need to comply because of bad weather. And also in the charterparty evaluation, you also see comparison between the consumptions, speed deviations towards the reported speed, but also the registered AS speed. And of course, more weather information as well. Wind, wave, and current information is also present in here. Again, we have in our solution a lot of different types of analytics, and we have a lot of data which is collected from the vessel. And that also gives us the possibility to give you a lot of different data extracts, so the user can download to support with better insights and also increase the quality of the different decisions that should be taken. That could be specific extracts related to sea cargo charter, CII, main engine performance, fuel data, etc. So when it comes to Voyage, we have a lot of different tools to support that, to give you better insights, and also the tools you need when it comes to compliance about charterparty, when it comes to compliance against regulatory requirements. When we are now moving into the ETS, when we are moving into voyage-based reporting to regulators, for instance, we have the solutions in place. We also have automated solutions to feed data to regulators as well. And that is validated data that we feed to, let's say, Veracity and DNV for verification of DCS and MRV. So thank you. I think that concludes my presentation about vessel performance on a voyage basis.
Well, thank you very much. Well, we're going to the Q&A session now. So we don't have any questions at the moment, but I've got a few lined up. But if you want to put questions in the Q&A box, so we're talking about a kind of a planning digital twin, I suppose, where you sort of predict what your energy consumption is going to be at different parts of the voyage. Then you see how that compares, and that gives you the earliest possible. Or maybe you're just saying on this day you have particularly high emissions. That's something you should know about. So, but either is incredibly useful.
Yes, so you can say the basis for all our analytics services is the digital twin, because we need to know the baseline. We need to know what is the best performance this vessel can have. And of course, we also take into considerations the aging, the hull performance, the main engine performance. So we give you an updated view on the, let's say, propulsion efficiency. And we also come with recommendations when it comes to hull cleanings, propeller polish, and also other initiatives to improve performance, which you can use to improve your voyages as well.
Yeah. I mean, the thought crossed my mind. I think this is the future of shipping, and it all looks incredibly difficult with all these numbers. But there's no other way to, if we're going to commit to a certain emission level with a charter, we've got to reach it. We're going to need to monitor in a lot of granularity, and we'll be looking at a lot of data like this, isn't it? So I think that's a. Well, we've got a couple of questions coming in. So Captain Harry Verhoeven from Kongsberg, he's asking, what is voyage space? I didn't hear you say voyage space. I don't know.
No, I don't know what you mean by voyage space.
Did you not say voyage space? No? Or he must have misheard you, perhaps, did you?
Yeah,
Okay. And then, so we've got a broad question from Etienne Gurnes. He's asking about alternative fuels. We're getting a bit off the topic here because we're not really talking about alternative fuels. I mean, I suppose they have lower emission for the same, in terms of your context here, the CO2 emission will be lower if you're using ammonia fuel, isn't it?
And of course, we see a huge interest in also in different types of fuels as well. And we need to continue to develop our solutions so we actually can support these type of low emission fuels, like ammonia or methanol or something else as well. So currently, that is not something we have in our solutions to support all these, let's say, low emission fuels. But that is under development, of course, because it's on the table. We need to comply to the requirements, and we need to comply to the market demands as well.
Well, so we've got a question from Dimitris Argyros. I think he's a fleet performance management consultant in the UK. He's asking for baselines for auxiliary engine consumption. I don't know, do you need a baseline? Well, that's what you expect to emit if nothing goes wrong. Is that what the baseline is? Or
when we make the digital twins, we collect a lot of different types of information. That is about, of course, the vessel particulars. It's about shop test records. It's about propeller curves. It's about, let's say, engine information. And that gives us the baseline. We have all the information from the different engine manufacturers of the recommended, let's say, values and metrics in the engines as well.
Oh, so question from Captain Nikolaos Katachos. I think he's a marine vetting manager at Samos Steamship. He's asking, so we'll be doing a follow-up report at the end of the voyage. So, well, I guess we're asking now, what happened at the end of the voyage? You're going to say, here's what you emitted, and here's what you could have emitted if you'd done it in a different way. Is that a?
When looking at the, let's say, the voyage itself, we have all information stored in our NavFleet about the, let's say, the actual tracks, the deviations, the weather information, all that is stored. We also have all the information stored, like I showed you on the last slides, when it comes to the emission, the consumptions, all that is also stored in NavFleet. When it comes to the optimal route, as mentioned here as well, that is very difficult. We don't have information in our solution. If that was the best route you could have taken, that is not present in our solution. So we just have, let's say, call it historical information.
Oh, I mean, what crossed my mind, the actual monitoring process, because this is kind of the main focus of your talk. How would that work in practice in a shipping company? I guess people are used to having sort of fleet management departments, fleet performance departments who look at data, but we're going to get a far deeper view of the whole company. Maybe superintendents looking at this every day. The first thing they do in the morning is looking and see if the emissions compare to how they expect to be, and chatting to the captain about it. Is this what
we see is there are many different types of use, and what we see as a trend is that the people, it probably also goes for you and me as well. We want to spend as less time as possible in different types of solutions, because we need to relate to many different products. We need to relate to many different solutions to give information and insights. So what we need to do, and what we are doing, is to give you the information so you don't need to spend a lot of time using our solutions. So that is why you can receive important email notifications for deviations. Of course, you can log in and follow more like a day-to-day operations, what has happened the last day. But we also know and recognize that the majority don't do that. They don't have time to use a lot of time in applications. They want something which is easy to use, that gives you the best insight, gives you the best recommendations right here, right now, without spending too much time in applications.
Yeah, there's another question from Captain Harry. He's asking about how you help the offshore industry with greenhouse gas CII. I'm not sure if he's asking particularly about the offshore industry or asking particularly about the CII, but I guess the CII is a roll-up of this over the whole year, isn't it? So I guess that all fits together in the...
What we also have in our solution is, of course, the possibility to monitor close to real time when it comes, especially when it comes to CII.
Yeah.
We have a CII close to real time monitoring solution that can give you information about attained CII, and it also gives you a prediction. If you continue to operate your vessels like you have been doing, this will be the end result. So if you continue like this, you will end up with a C or a D rating, for instance. When it comes to, let's say, trying to reduce emissions, we have our monitoring solution that looks at hull conditions, fouling. It looks at how we can improve engine performance, for instance. So that is also helping to reduce the GHG and also the CII and other metrics as well. So again, we have, this was only showing some of the voyage analysis, but we also have more like our dashboards for real-time monitoring as well when it comes to emission and compliance to this.
Oh, and the data collection question, because we didn't mention that, but I guess if you just got a noonday report once a day, that's maybe a bit late to spot a lot of these problems happening, isn't it? So I guess if we're doing daily monitoring, we really want more than a noonday report, don't we?
I know Arild, one of my colleagues, he had a webinar for a month or two, also with the VPO, where he actually talked about the data collection and data quality, why that is important. And the data quality and data collection is probably one of the things that differentiates Navtor from others, because data quality is the key to not everything, but it's the key to give you the best insights you can have. So we have a very strong focus on data collection, and also data validation, because we use a lot of time correcting data, and our solution is doing that in a very neat way, actually. Because if we don't correct data, you will take wrong decisions. That could be affecting your emissions and, of course, consumptions as well. So the way we do it, basically, is that we know that the majority of the vessels sailing, they don't have advanced equipment. They don't have probably shaft power meters or flow meters or automation in place. So we have not a basic, but we have our own reporting solution with much validation in there, which is typically a noon or event reported solution. So all events you report, and also typically noon reporting. You can combine this with automated solutions. So if you have a data collector in place, if you have flow meters, if you have shaft power meters, if you have something else you want to have automated in here, we can also do that. So we can combine manual with automated data in our solutions.
Oh, but the automated data, that's a flow meter on the.
It could be, and it could be weather information. It could be navigational information. So all types of sensors we can auto-populate into our reporting solutions as well. And again, to minimize workload on board.
Oh, there's a question here from Alexia Penalva Ambron, who I think is a marketing manager with GTT in Paris, so the people who make the installation for the or the systems for the LNG carriers. But she's asking about the weather forecasting system. I guess that's all part of Navtor for a long time. Do you want to say anything about the?
We are using weather information from WNI.
Weather News
International.
Okay, and that all sort of comes into the servers and is all part of the modeling and.
And everything is stored in our systems.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Another interesting thing you mentioned was about the regulation voyage by voyage, because you sounded pretty sure we're going to see this coming regulation by voyage, because I haven't seen that in other places. I mean, it seems like most people are happy with annual reporting. Do you want to say a few thoughts on that?
Of course, we have close connections with especially DNV, but also other recognized organizations and also other classification societies. And they are saying that also voyage-based reporting will come as a requirement into regulators. And that is probably also to comply with especially MRV when it comes to EU, for instance. So they can analyze more on a voyage-based instead of a day-to-day or time period-based. So we don't. I know they will have some information out shortly about this, but I haven't managed to receive more concrete information about the requirements for voyage-based reporting.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it seems intuitive. You want to, if you're buying a product which is the voyage, you want to know the emissions associated with it. I guess it seems like a direction we can see these things going in, isn't it? I suppose
it is, but it is an important topic, because when it comes to the consumptions, when it comes to emissions, who is going to pay for this? Who is going to pay for the quotas? So you need some kind of tools to prove and also to improve this type of performance. And of course, it will also be a part of the charter parties as well.
Yeah, we did a webinar with a guy from Neste Oil, I think about a year ago, where he showed how they're a charterer by a refining company in Finland. They wanted to show the emissions in every cargo they're using, and a lot of them were parcel tankers, which makes it even more complicated. But he was saying about how difficult it is just to get this one simple number.
It is, and also we see even CII is very difficult to let's say to include and integrate into charter parties as well. So when it comes to CO2, and that is of course also going to be a part of this.
Yeah, this is a whole new direction for shipping that it hasn't been to before. I think this whole gathering data from each voyage. And
of course, CO2 is just a start. We also see non-CO2 is coming as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's another question from Alexia. She's asking models to anticipate strong vessel motions like rollings. I guess this is when the ship is using more heavy weather is making the ship is using more fuel than you planned, I guess. But that's all part of the modeling if you've got a weather forecast. But you're still going to emit more, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So modeling is the core of this. People have got to know where you are and where you're going and what's coming out of the flue. And
of course, and we don't make statistical models. We make vessel-specific models. So of course, in order to improve the best room for improvement, you need to understand that specific vessel. So we also know that there is a discussion regarding the statistical models and the AI-based models. And of course, you can find something good in all these things, but we believe that currently the best room for improvements is by using vessel-specific models, which we do, and using the baselines. Well, okay, what was the intended performance for this vessel when it was new?
Yeah. Do you want to share thoughts about the credibility of the data? So if there's financial issues associated with emitting more than you plan to, there's a big incentive for people to lie or distrust the data other people are doing, and it's very hard from an outside body to check what a company is reporting. But there may be a lot of
It is, but you see, especially going into Poseidon principles, for instance, we see a lot of ship owners showing a lot of interest in this because we have also automated services in place that can feed information directly to, especially DNV. They're one of the few having this API service in place. So we feed on a daily basis. We feed validated data, MRV and DCS data into DNV for verification. So the ship owner can come back to, let's say, the DNV or someone else to have them make a sustainability report, emission report, and they can go back to their finance institutions and refinance their debt for their vessels. And we have actually customers doing this and saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest rates by using this kind of service. So, but again, that is about simplifying tasks. It's about automated processes. But again, it's about complying to the different frameworks and also using the opportunities which is in the different frameworks as well. Because it's not only limitations, it's also possibilities which lies there.
Yeah. How does an outside company check what a shipping company is doing? I guess if you can see the bunkers they're loading and what they're using, the auxiliary generators, and you've got to kind of align that with the voyage, something like that. I guess is.
But for these, looking at the Poseidon, they use only the same data as for IMO DCS. So it's very simple, basically. So you only need validated and verified data. And we also supply with bunker delivery notes as well. So this is the same data they use for compliance to IMO DCS.
Yeah. So Alexia from GTT is asking about how we optimize the fuel consumption on a particular voyage. I think that's kind of what we talked about here. So, we show with the graphs, you can see you're emitting more than you thought you should have been, and here's a way of doing it better. And
yeah, we don't do it on an ongoing voyage when it comes to the CII, but we do it in the planning phase as well. When it comes to the fuel consumptions, it's the same for that one. But of course, you can also use weather optimization services, voyage optimization services. Let's say weather avoidance, for instance, is something. But when it comes to initiatives during a voyage, we don't have recommendations on an ongoing voyage, how you can optimize CII or fuel consumptions.
Yeah, some people talk about adjusting the trim a little bit so the ship is sitting differently in the sea, but I don't know if that makes a...
Yeah, we have trim optimization services, but yeah, of course, that is about the consumptions. But again, we don't have actively services going into a vessel operation on a day-to-day basis, but we give you the information and we give you the insights. So it's up to the users to use that information.
Yeah. This is a big cultural change. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more people get involved with this data, just like a lot of people at home are thinking more about their fuel consumption in their houses than they used to. I suppose it's a big change with the whole thing getting far more broader and more complicated. But the companies who get it right are the ones who are going to get the charters, I suppose. So it's worth making the effort to do it, isn't it? Yeah, these are huge issues. I think it's a very difficult question because it's such a cultural change. I think it's very hard for us to get our brains around it, this whole change we're going to have to make to provide better data for the whole voyage and the whole emissions we're making, I think. So it's yeah, that's quite tricky. Well, we're coming on to the last 5 minutes now. We don't have any more questions, but I don't know if you want to leave the audience with any thoughts or I guess people should all be trying out this stuff at least and getting to grips with monitoring idea. And
it is, because, again, there are a lot of different options out there to choose from. But we, as mentioned in the beginning, we strongly believe that a holistic approach, combining our e-navigation services with the performance services we have, that will give you the best information, the best insights to take better decisions. And also, again, our main focus is again to reduce the workload. And also mentioned just a few minutes ago, we recognize that users, they don't spend hours using our applications. They want to use as less time as possible. So our applications, they need to be easy to use. So you can use them as little as possible. That's the best way, we think.
Yeah, and this is phenomenally important. We're talking about domain experts making decisions who have very small amounts of time, and the easiest we make it for them to see what's happening, the better. And yeah, that's also a big change to the software approach, I think. And how do people work with you? Can they use your fleet performance tools, or do they have to use the fleet the charts as well? Or do you want to say a few words about that?
No, we have a modularized approach to this. So if you, based on your needs and what kind of tasks you want our solutions to do, you can opt for only emission and compliance tools. Okay, I only want to report to regulators. So then we just set up the solution and we give access to all the users that needs to have access in the solutions. If you want a full performance solution from us, we also have a team of performance experts that also go through the reports coming in and also come with recommendations for how you can improve performance, for instance, on a general basis. So there are many different ways of using our solutions. And again, we cater to operational, technical, and also commercial teams as well. So they use the applications in different ways and find different information with benefit in our solution.
So sort of part software, part sort of consulting, or part personal support.
Yes. So we have the also the consulting part is also something we offer to some of the customers, because not all teams have that expertise in-house when it comes to, okay, how can you actually reduce emissions? How can you improve performance? So we have that expertise, and we can also offer that as a service. And many of our customers are actually also using that service. So where we offer monthly meetings with our clients, going through all the let's say findings from the last month, and also come with some kind of recommendations for improvements.
Well, one last question from Alexia here is asking about how you calibrate weather factors. I suppose that means how you predict what different weather is going to have on the fuel consumption. But we're talking about sort of prediction now, not monitoring. But I guess that's a. I don't know if you want to give a short answer to that one.
To be honest, I'm not able to answer that one.
Okay, there's more modeling in advance, I think, isn't it? We're talking about monitoring is important differentiation between what we think is going to happen and what's actually happening and what's happening right now. I think it's very important things for people to conceptualize the difference, because yeah, no, it sounds fantastic. All right, well, thanks ever so much. I think we've explored a whole new area and brought up a whole lot of difficult questions, and this stuff is a lot harder than it looks or might have appeared to be. I think it's when you actually have to hit this emissions target with all this data, that's when it gets really, really hard. But I think this is the right way to do it for sure. So I shall thank you very much, and I'll pass back to Vida. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have heard a few new things about monitoring performance by Voyage in this webinar. Thanks, Arild, for sharing your insights. And it was our last webinar of this year. I invite our audience to look at the webinar topics for next year that we are planning on our website. Also, give us a shout if you'd like to tell your story here with us. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next year in February. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.